the Academy for giving me the opportunity to present my research, as well as elected me in their community. So it's a great pleasure, and I'm really honored to be a part of this society. And I'm really enjoying a couple of talks from other fellows, and I'm very happy to contribute to this. So today I'm going to talk to you about a few interesting approaches what we have designed in our lab to image life, means biological systems, molecules, things which moves, and by using chemical approaches, which is designated as dynamic molecular interactions. So before I go to a little bit details, I will just talk to you about it. What's the kind of inspirations from where we actually take these ideas from. Obviously, it comes from the nature. As you can see, couple of very famous videos where one of the single cell organism like amoeba, which is trying to engulf an yeast. And what you can see that these are the systems where two things would be visible. Okay, and another video, what you can see, bacteria is getting chased by a cell to engulf. Right? And what you can see from these two videos is that there are four important learning lessons we can take from nature. As you can see, these interactions or molecular interactions are reversibles, and they adapt, right? They can adapt to a different shape, a different environment, and they can responsive to environmental cues. For example, it's a chasing bacteria, or there is also possibility for spatial and temporal regulations, right? For example, it can move to a specific directions. So by looking at these sort of important aspects which is present in the biology, if we really would like to take these informations and trying to replicate it in a synthetic system so that we can actually study, understand and modulate the biological system, and also create something which matches life like in a synthetic lives. So for that cases, as you can understand in terms of chemical aspects, if you can think about two approaches. Either you can take molecules which forms a covalent bond. However, the challenges with that covalent bonds are usually static, and they are less perturbed by the use of environment, right? So they may not be suitable to demonstrate or make a synthetic system, which is like life-like materials. However, if you think about non-covalent bond or the supramolecular complexes, they are formed by weak interactions, right? So they can be implemented features like reversibility, adaptability, and stimuli responsiveness. So that's why we are going to focus on these non-covalent bonds, which I called as the dynamic bonds, to see that whether how they can be used to study biological systems. However, there are significant challenges when we think about utilizing such systems for studying biology. Now, the major important aspect or difficulties in the traditional systems are the difficult to achieve specificity. For example, you want to study X, but instead of studying X, your molecule binds to Y, right? So you really need the specificity to in the interactions to study some of these molecules. And most of the times, the affinity of these standard synthetic systems are very low, and multivalency is oftentimes required to achieve high affinity. And in addition, they also miss structural diversity to modulate binding. For example, many molecules will have different binding affinity depending upon their function, and that is many times missing in the synthetic systems. And again, if we go back to the natural system, how they actually solve this problem is like this. They actually utilizes three different important aspects to overcome the challenges which synthetic system cannot. For example, they have a matching shapes, right? So shape-based pairing works in biological system. They have cooperative interactions, and they have also involvement of diverse interactions in molecular recognitions, right? So these are the three important aspects nature uses and make non-covalent complexes which are specific, which are stable, and which can be modulated by the external cues. So by looking at that, we searched various recognition motifs and came up with these specific molecules, which is called the cucurbituryl 7. And this actually one of the very important aspect of this molecule is that they possess the important attributes which I just told and learned from the nature. They have a cavity which fitted in size. They have various different interactions. They have like hydrogen bonding, ion dipole, and hydrophobic interactions. also they can gain very high affinity interactions via enthalpy and entropy gain by the release of high energy water molecule. Okay, so that's why we were very interested in this sort of scaffold, and we realized that this can be used in many purposes. So before going to that, what I'm going to tell you that what are the kind of molecules this interacts with. So these are the list of the molecule. What you can see that you can essentially achieve an affinity of 10 to the power 5 to all the way of 10 to the power 18 by utilizing a single scaffold by structurally varying the guest. Okay, so now if I have this a library of molecule with different affinities, what we can achieve from there. Okay, so these are the three important aspects what I'm going to talk to you based on these molecular interactions. So now this is the important aspects of molecular interactions, that if you have a very high affinity interactions, essentially you will be getting a AB complex formed at given concentrations, right? So the equilibrium will be driven towards the AB complex formation if you have an affinity in the range of 10 to the power 10 to 50. So now I will talk to you that how this kind of interaction can be used to probe and image biological molecules. Okay. The second aspect I will talk to you about that now if you are decrease the affinity to in the range of 10 to the power 6 to 7, you essentially would be able to understand that there will be equilibrium exist between this A and C. Right? So there will be always complex formations and dissociation. And by observing these molecules, by forming and complexing and decomplexing, you would be essentially able to image molecules well beyond the diffraction limit of light. Right? So here you would be able to resolve this molecule in the resolution of 10 to 20 nanometer by using optical microscope. So which will call it super resolution optical microscope. And third important aspect that you can actually drive these molecular complex formations by under stimuli responsive manner. For example, if you use light, then only the complex will form, otherwise it will not form. So that can be used to specifically form complexes at specific location and spatial and temporal manner to achieve imprinting of any molecular informations into the cell. For example, here you can see that we have imprinted the JNC logo in this form in top of a cell, right? So these are the three important aspects which I'm going to talk to you in very briefly. So first thing, this high affinity complex. Okay, so once we got to region where we are getting a complex formed by an affinity of 10 to the 13 order. So what we did is that we basically immobilized them on an origami platform. Okay, so origami is used because we can essentially image them such a way that you can exactly localize and precisely tell the position of this molecule. So after immobilizing them, we have imaged this molecule formed by host-guest complex, and this is the origami structures which was designed, and this is what we observe. Okay, and as you can clearly see here, we have put this four-corner origami structure based on host-guest interactions. And once I zoom into these images, what you can essentially see that each of these structures have 4 points, 4 corners, which essentially tells you that I am able to form a specific host-guest complex, which I can now use for biological imaging. And that's what we did next. We immobilized these molecules into the cells in a specific structure called microtubule, and we imaged them. Okay, and this is what we get. Okay, so what it says that you can essentially able to get the structure repaired into these systems in very, very well defined manner. And you can see it's highly specific, and all the structural informations of these microtubules are well visualized. Okay, so this is a first example of host-guest complex-based biological imaging. And next, what we did is that we extended it into the tissue samples. Right, we took Drosophila and then we dissected various organs, and we tried to see that can this be used to image molecules in the tissue. And that's what we are able to see. So this is a very beautiful examples of Drosophila ovary, and where different molecules like actins are labeled using this host-guest interaction, and that's what you are able to see in this system. Not only you can see this, you can distinguish between different organizations of molecules in different tissue. For example, actin pattern in muscles are quite different than what you see over here. So next I'm going to show you, this is the pattern of actin which is present in our muscle. And you can clearly see these two types of interactions or molecules are differently organized in different tissues, and which is and tremendous information which we can get from this sort of biological imaging. Okay, so now we also have extended it to even more, for example, biological imaging in live cells. So to know the dynamics of the molecules, what we just showed you, like for example, microtubules. And here is a video, what you can really see and appreciate, that you can clearly understand that there is an enormous amount of movement into these structural organizations of the microtubule, which are one of the most important component or cytoskeleton protein present in the cell. And also you can see, if you do extended imaging, you will be able to see that how these structures are organized, moved, and distributes over a period of 20 hours, right? So this is an extended imaging informations which you will be able to gather by utilizing these post-case interactions. Okay, and also you can image various organelles. For example, this is an image of brain slices. You can even look at molecules in intestines. For example, this is the microtubule distribution in intestine, and also you can see various other organelles like cuticles and various other molecules, right? So we have a complete spectrum of imaging probes which can be used to target different molecules and able to distinguish various probes and understand their distribution in various organs. Okay, so now the next part of the story, I'll quickly touch through this. So there is basically next is the dynamic interaction, right? So now we are looking at the molecules which forms based on this affinity of 10 to the power 6. So there is a dynamic interactions or exchange present between this. So now if there is a dynamic interaction, essentially if you are looking at one molecule forming host-guest complex, what you will essentially see is this, that when there is a binding event, you will have a signal, and when there is a dissociation, you will have a dip in the signal, correct? And that's what we are actually trying to observe under our microscope by using this sort of imaging probe. So essentially what you will be able to see, that if you are looking at single host-guest complex, there will be appearance of signal or an event which will give you spots in your microscope. However, when this molecule dissociate, you will be able to see a signal disappear. However, this signal will reappear again if this molecule again binds to the same spots, right? So that's called the dynamic equilibrium exists between host-guest complex. And that's what essentially we have probed in our microscope. And what you essentially are able to see here is that single spot represents the formation of a single host-guest complex, right? And now let me tell you that if I image this over time, what you are able to see. So let me play this video, and what you are able to see here, that the spots appears and disappears intermittently, and they stay for some time and goes back, right? So that essentially correlates our hypothesis that you are able to essentially probe a single molecular binding events in this real time. Okay, and we can actually plot these. We can get the binding time and off time, on time of these blinking events, right, which is called a single molecule blinking. Now, what can we do this? What can we use this single molecule blinking in biological imaging, right? So what we essentially did is that we looked at things where we cannot be imaged by using standard microscope because of the barrier which is called a diffraction limit, right? So any microscope which is operated under standard light microscope has a limit of this diffraction which is around 200 nanometers. So we are not able to probe molecules beyond that. However, there are many molecules, almost majority of the biomolecules present or structures present in this area, in this region. So what we did is that we think about the approach exists where you can localize these single molecule events, and we can probe these molecules beyond the diffraction limit. And the strategy is given here. Instead of molecule, so here is a structure where all the molecules are fluorescent at a single time. However, if you are able to specifically turn on and off different molecules, like kind of blinking, and you can use some mathematical algorithm to feed this data and get a specific localization. So that once we do this sort of blinking events and localize this, you should be able to get a complete picture or map of a molecule which is well beyond the diffraction limit. And that's what exactly we did. We have used this strategy and integrated in the biological system, and that's what we get. Okay, this is the standard image which will get in a confocal or under standard diffraction limit. And once we have turned on our microscopy strategy using host-guest interaction, this is what we are able to see, right? So you are able to see a much improvement of the resolutions, and I'm going to show you that exactly how much improvement of the resolution we are going to get. But here you can really appreciate that you have a tremendous improvement of the resolution of the structure, and we can essentially get a 10 times better resolution as what you can observe under standard microscope. So here we are able to probe the molecules and able to determine their structure, which were impossible to determine based on the standard microscope. For example, a diameter of the microtubules are able to visualize, which is not possible for under standard microscopy technique. We actually extended it in various molecules like actins, where we got resolution of close to 18 to 20 nanometer. We also did similar things like, for example, tissue samples in Drosophila. So there also we are able to make this, that this works very well. And we imaged various organisms like, for example, bacteria, and you can see the cell walls of bacteria lightened up in a super resolutions. And also you can see that you can also probe these molecules in 3D, right? You can actually understand that how these molecules organized in 3D, where we are able to improve the resolution of 3 to 4 times, looking at the structures like mitochondria, the diameters, and various other aspects. So last 2-3 slides, I'm just going to tell you the last part where I'm able to get the complex formations under the light. Okay, so light is an external stimuli, right, and it can manipulate and you can precisely control this. And that's what we did. We used the light and made it a complex such that this can form only under the stimulus of light. And this is the probing using fluorescence quenching experiment. And then once we did exactly similar thing by utilizing microscopy, what you can able to understand here is that as soon as they focus light on specific region of the cell, post-case complex formation starts, and you are able to see the structures. And that's what again repeated in the live cell. And we also are able to do something like called barcoding of the cells, where we are able to put different molecules in different places, a combination of molecules provide a different color to the cells. Okay, thank you. I'm end of this presentation, so I'll just acknowledge a few people, but specifically Professor Sienna Rao, who has been instrumental in providing us all the supports necessary for doing this research, and also my group, who has been constantly working towards various directions and making this successful. Also collaborators, Professor Subi George, Siva Basu, Manisha, and Ralph. And also my wonderful colleagues from NCU CPMU, who has been really helpful in various aspects to make sure that things moves very well. And also finally the funding agencies, DST, SCRB, Wellcome Trust, and DBT. And also finally I would like to thank the academy to give me the opportunity to present my research in this wide community, diverse community. So thank you.
So, Sharif, before anyone posts any question, I can ask you something.
Sure.
I didn't quite clearly understand how the affinity is used in experiment to derive selectivity. Okay. I understand that you have a different sort of a spectrum of affinities for the same molecule, right? The molecule is the same, and
yeah, so there are two factors. I think one is the affinity and another one is specificity or kind of selectivity. So affinity will be defined based on the structure of molecule and how it fits into the cavity, and depending upon how well it fits, how much interactions is able to provide, how much water molecule able to displace, the affinity will differ. And the specificity and or the selectivity will actually remains very similar from beginning to end, because specificity, I mean that, for example, in biological system there are various amino acids, various other molecules which can potentially interact with these sort of non-covalent motifs. However, in our experience, what we have realized that these molecules are quite specific to these externally employed agents like the guest molecule, rather than binding to the molecules which are present in the biological system. So that's what I mean by the specificity in this case. Is that
thank you. Yes, there is a question from Rene. Why did you name your molecule cucurbitacin?
So this is not named by us, it is known in the literature. So this is actually shaped as a pumpkin shape, and I think the name derived from that sort of cucurbit is derived from that sort of pumpkin shaped molecule. So this is not given by us.
I see. There are two questions from Dr. Umakant Subudhi. First is, can we image DNA using your approach?
Can we, so I didn't present that part of my research. Yes, so essentially what I'm showing you here in non-covalent interactions, which is again present in the DNA based interactions. So yes, we are also working on this concept of using DNA to replicate this sort of system. And essentially, if you're able to do that, you can use that probes to extend from a DNA structures or so to image DNA. So that is possible, either our approach or using DNA. However, I would say that this approach is more suitable in many contexts, for example, live cell aspects, because there you are not dealing with the degradation of DNA, which is very challenging many times. So yes, I think it's a very good question, and definitely it will be possible to extend, and we are extending in various directions.
There are no other, I see no questions on YouTube either. So please join me in thanking Sarit Agasti again for a very nice talk and very beautiful talk. Thanks, Sarit.